When you think of Germany, what do you think of? Is sausage and beer the first thing that comes to mind? Well, if you're a non-German, chances are World War II probably comes to mind, in which case that's completely fair. The war left lasting profound effects on the entire world, and even though the atrocities were not solely committed by the Germans alone, to say that they were the aggressors would not be incorrect. Not even a little bit. However, this event wasn't the only period where Germany went on an invasion spree. In fact, in the greater scheme of things, it wasn't even half of every other country the Germans have ever invaded beforehand. So let's take a look at every nation that the Germans have invaded. To clarify, we will only be specifying sovereign nations. Tribes that early Germans invaded won't be counted. However, German tribes that invaded sovereign nations will be counted. Additionally, when it comes to it, in the Holy Roman Empire, only Saxony and Prussia will be considered, as there are just too many things going on over 1,000 years, and Saxony or Prussia are usually the kingdoms that come to mind when you think about medieval Germany. Our journey begins in the year 410, when the Germans sacked the city of Rome, marking the end of the Western Roman Empire. Due to this invasion of Germanic organized tribes, which aspired to establish their dominance in the region, the Western Roman Empire's decline was accelerated. These tribes, such as the Visigoths, were seeking new territories and resources, driven partly by pressures from the Huns moving into Europe. The sacking of Rome in 410 by the Visigoths under Alaric I was a significant event symbolizing the fall of one of the world's most powerful civilizations to ever exist to just these small Germanic invaders. This event marked a pivotal shift in the power dynamics of Europe, setting the stage for the rise of Germanic kingdoms and the fragmentation of what was once a unified Roman domain. The Germans didn't only attack the Western Empire, but of course targeted Byzantium as well. The reasoning here was a bit different, however. Instead of just territorial integrity or resource depopulation, it was about Byzantium creeping into Italy to establish more kingdoms such as Ostrogothia or Lombardia. This was seen as an aggression which led to the Germans invading and sacking the Byzantine Empire more than once. However, no attempt was successful, where every single attempt to defeat the Byzantines was met with resistance. The Merovingian Empire was a large kingdom formed by Gauls after the fall of the Western Empire, so naturally the Germans would sack this empire too. Similar to Rome, the Germans were looking for more resources to fund their own internal aspirations, such as conflicts with other German tribes. However, inevitably the Franks won the conflict, and were able to capture a few key German regions in the process. After the departure of Rome and England, groups of English kingdoms were formed. However, not even the British Isles across the sea were safe from the wrath of the Germans, where after several sackings and invasions from Germans, the English were Saxonified and became significantly German populated. Just as Gaul was dominated by new civilizations, Iberia was too. This case is interesting as the Germans replaced the Iberian Roman rule with the German one, but it was still raided by Germans. The reasoning was less obvious, but it's assumed that the outside Germans didn't appreciate a dominant German kingdom in the region that was more powerful than any other German tribe. The invasions didn't go anywhere even as coalitions were formed. With Prussia out of the picture, we move forward into the future with the establishment of the Duchy of Saxony. The Saxons invaded plenty in their time, possibly the most notable example being Slavic Bohemia, where the state was ultimately puppeted. It was a decisive victory on behalf of the Saxons, as the Bohemian kingdom wasn't exactly the most organized of kingdoms. Around the 9th century, Saxony focused on the Magyar Wars. Over this period, the Saxons and Magyars went back and forth at each other, well over 50 different instances. Typically just classified as the Magyar Wars, ultimately Saxony was unsuccessful in defending against the Magyars, who took over a large portion of Bohemia, which later the Austrians would reclaim. Saxony played a large role in the Italian campaigns where the Holy Roman Empire targeted and attacked the Italian peninsula to reach the city of Rome. During this period, the Duchy of Saxony invaded around 100 Italian kingdoms. A significant portion of those were successful, but Saxony didn't gain any land, instead a large prestige boost within the Holy Roman Empire. The Duchy of Saxony was also involved in the French campaigns. Saxony, along with a number of German kingdoms, went to invade the French kingdom, none of which were notable enough to matter, with only one campaign in total being a German victory anyways. Saxony didn't gain any land out of these campaigns. Moving north, we'll focus on Prussia, which isn't called Prussia yet, but known as the Teutonic Knights. The Teutonic Knights, or Teutonic Order, were responsible for the Great War. No, not that Great War, but the earlier Polish-Lithuanian Teutonic War, where the Teutonic Knights wanted to Christianize the northern states such as Latvia and Estonia, but the primary example being Poland and Lithuania, the game of the war. Poland responded to the Christianization of Lithuania by declaring war on the Teutonic Knights. The Teutonic Knights responded by invading Poland first, however quickly the Teutonic Knights were defeated by the Polish, who utterly destroyed the Knights in the end. The Teutonic Knights played a crucial role in defending Europe from the Mongol Empire. Although being ultimately unsuccessful, the might of the order did halt significant Mongol advances. Ultimately, the Mongol Empire occupied the Teutonic Knights until they fell much later. The Teutonic Knights were also in conflict with the Russian Tsardom over control of the Finnic regions of Novgorod, which were primarily pagan. The Teutonic Knights sought to Christianize these lands as well. Although the Teutonic Knights gained hardly any land from these invasions, they were successful in Christianizing this region. Lastly, the Teutonic Knights had multiple exchanges with the Duchy of Prussia, where the Teutonic Knights would invade the Prussians for dominance in the Baltic Sea. However, the Duchy of Prussia would fall to the Teutonic Order, where the Kingdom of Prussia would be formed. Baden, a small German kingdom, invaded modern Venezuela and titled the colony Little Venice. I mentioned specifically would not mention other German states than Prussia and Saxony, but this event was very specific and it created Kleine Venice as a colony of Baden. During the Great Northern War, the Kingdom of Prussia invaded and conquered Swedish Pomerania, which was then successfully incorporated into mainland Prussia. Prussia invaded the electorate of Saxony in the 7 Years' War due to their alliance with Austria. Saxony fell to the Prussians in a matter of months, marking the end of the Saxon electorate. Prussia, on multiple occasions, primarily in the 7 Years' War, engaged in a military conflict with the Russians, where the Prussians would invade the Russians, none of which were successful, but it did keep the Russians out of Prussia. Prussia, as a member of the Fourth Coalition, took down Napoleon in the Napoleonic Wars, and later when Napoleon returned, France was defeated once again by the Prussians with the help of the British. Prussia participated with Russia and Austria in the partition of Poland, where the country was divided and annexed by the three powers. Allied to Austria, Prussia invaded the Danish twice in the Schleswig War, where Prussia eventually won, conquering the lands and pushing Denmark very far into the peninsula. Prussia was also a rival to the Austrian Empire. Prussia invaded Austria more times than could be counted on two hands. In all of these engagements, Prussia came out controlling Silesia and several Austrian territories. Prussia invaded France again during the Franco-Prussian War, where France was defeated by a coalition of German states, which dissolved the German Confederation and created the German Empire, with Wilhelm I as King of Prussia and Emperor of the Germans. In the scramble of Africa, the German Empire agreed to carve up Africa, effectively annexing any nations in German West Africa or German East Africa. The same can be applied to German New Guinea. Germany also briefly invaded the Cocos Islands during World War I and Indian Ocean territory of Australia. It was a sabotage mission which quickly became a naval battle, a small skirmish of World War I. The German Empire invaded Belgium in the First World War, before invading France. This engagement was marked by significant French military victories, forcing Germany to back off and focus on the Russian Empire. On the Eastern Front, with the help of Austria and the Ottomans, Russia was decisively defeated, beginning the Russian Civil War. Back on the Western Front, Germany tries to invade France again. This does not go well. Germany, with the help of Austria, invaded the countries of Serbia, Montenegro, Greece, Romania, and Italy. Aside from Italy, all of these were Austrian victories, with Germany being a prominent figure in the invasions as well. Italy and Austria continued fighting until the end of the war. Germany invaded Portuguese soil in the African theater, shortly after Portugal joined the war. Germany invaded the United States when the United States set foot into German land. This went about as well as you'd expect. Under the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was forced to unarm, which marks the end of German invasions. Germany never invaded another country again. Until they did. The first nation invaded by Nazi Germany was Austria. When German officers entered the country, Austria surrendered overnight. The second victim of German aggression was Czechoslovakia, where Sudetenland was annexed, and later so was the rest of Czechia, while Slovakia became a de facto puppet state. Of course, famously, the Second World War began when German and Soviet troops entered Poland. Germany invaded West Poland, and it was divided amongst the two superpowers. After this, France and Britain invaded Germany. This time, Germany went through the Netherlands too, meaning all lowland nations were invaded and promptly defeated. France was also invaded and was quickly defeated by the Germans as well. The Germans entered Denmark, and famously Denmark surrendered only after 6 hours. The same thing happened more or less to Norway. The Germans invaded Greece when Italy was too incompetent to finish them off themselves. Yugoslavia fell to the Germans as well when Germans invaded the nation. German troops invaded the Soviet Union in 1941 in an epic betrayal where Soviet non-aggression pact was broken. Eventually, Germany would see the consequences of their actions. Hungary inevitably switched sides and invaded Slovakia. Yugoslavia followed suit by invading through Germany in the Partisans Rebellion. German troops formally invaded Mussolini's fascist Italy on its decline to prevent the Allied powers from taking the entire country. Germany formally invaded Free France when the American troops joined them in Free Africa. The Germans invaded Normandy Beach when Americans arrived with the British. At this point, every country in the world had declared war on Germany, and on May 7th, Germany surrendered. It was divided amongst the Allied powers, and this time, for real this time, Germany never invaded another country again. Just kidding, East Germany, a member of the Warsaw Pact, invaded the independent Czechoslovakia during the Prague Spring Rebellion, in which the Germans, as well as every other Warsaw member, were victorious and installed an even more totalitarian regime in the newly again independent Czechoslovakia. West Germany, unlike East Germany, never sent troops into a foreign sovereign country, and after the Prague Spring, East Germany never intervened either. Later in 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell, the two Germanys united once and for all. As of 2023, Germany has not invaded another sovereign nation at all. However, as tensions rise in Europe with political differences and the Russo-Ukrainian war and increased German military spending, this may be outdated quite soon. However, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.